Hey, everybody, we're back today with a look at one of the forerunners of hard rock, heavy metal, one of the biggest selling bands of the 70s, and that would be Led Zeppelin. We're going to take a look at their top 10 songs. I'm here with Gary, Physical Format, Rock and Roll, Steve, All the World's a Stage. If you haven't already subbed these guys up, check them out. They're sporting the hardware. I got a Big Lebowski shirt on just for the hell of it. Anyway, we're here to talk about Led Zeppelin. All three of us are fans, and we love what they have contributed to the world of music. Hard rock, like I said, heavy metal, psychedelia. There's some folk, there's some blues. They touch on all aspects. Basically, it's just good, solid rock and roll. All right, so we're going to always start with the honorable mention, stuff that we wanted to get on the list, of course, and didn't quite make the cut, but they're still fantastic songs. Steve, do you have any of those today?
Yeah, I'll kind of go in order from the way they were released. Good Times, Bad Times. That's their intro to the world. I mean, that's first song, right. First album.
Yeah.
And, the drums there by Bonham. I really fought to get that song into my top 10, but I just couldn't. Another one for, let's see. Okay. Communication Breakdown.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll put these two together, Communication Breakdown and Immigrant Song. They're very much like sister songs. In fact, even when I was in a band, we played both of those songs. But that's not the reason why I didn't pick them. It's not that I'm tired of them, because there's other songs of theirs that I've heard a lot more than those that did make the list. And then let's see, from Physical Graffiti, Trampled Underfoot, and 10 Years Gone. Those are the 5 of mine that get an honorable mention.
Very good. Gary?
Oh, great. Well, first off, like we've been texting back and forth saying, this was an impossible list to make. Okay. So like whatever my top 10 is going to be, you guys are going to have songs in there that I'm going to say, yeah, that should have been in my top 10. So because I love Led Zeppelin, and there's not much that they have done that I don't like. So for me to pick top 10 songs is like,
it's hard, man.
I could almost throw, darts at a song list and say, yep, there they are. But anyway, my honorable mentions are, like you said, 10 Years Gone. Just a great, fairly epic song going back and forth with a slowness and then a little bit of heaviness. Perfect Led Zeppelin, right? Custard Pie. I just think that's a great rockin' song. I love it. When the Levee Breaks. I love the drums, the distorted harmonica in that thing. That's just a fantastic song. Going to California, one of the greatest ballad type songs or folk songs I've ever heard. And T for One, off of Presence. That's actually probably my favorite blues song that Led Zeppelin did. I think the guitar in that song is amazing. It's so haunting, and the vocals are very emotional sounding. It's very long, but it's a beautiful song. I love that T for One.
Great. I have 3 that you guys mentioned in my honorable mentions as well. Trampled Underfoot and Communication Breakdown. Both just missed the cut. Going to California, I wanted to get that in really bad, but I picked a couple other slower songs instead. Black Dog, iconic. Heartbreaker and Living Loving Maid, both of those. One of my, I just love that album. That Led Zeppelin 2 album is probably my second favorite album. And In the Evening, had to throw that a bone. So those are mine. And it's going to be interesting because we're going to have a lot of different songs. I don't think we're going to agree on a lot of this stuff. That's just my own take. It may be wrong, but
I think I was shocked at one of Gary's honorable mentions. I can't believe it didn't make your top 10. But...
Custard Pie, probably.
No,
No,
Yeah.
really.
No, no, but
Okay, we'll find out.
we'll get to it.
We'll unveil it. All right, Steve, you're going to go first. We're going to do 10 through 6, and then
Okay.
Gary, and then myself.
All right.
All right. Well, first up, here's something you've probably never heard about before mentioned with Led Zeppelin, but copyright infringement. And so my song would be from Led Zeppelin 2, Bring It On Home. Years later, Willie Dixon did get credited, so his estate does get some royalties from that. But that song, what I love about it, much like Heartbreaker, it's how Jones and Page are playing the same notes, they're matching each other, and it's a good bluesy song that that they end up rocking out on, and so yes, that's number 10. Number 9, and I just mentioned it from number 2, Heartbreaker. I've got this huge Led Zeppelin book, and in it, Page mentions that he was disappointed with his guitar playing on that solo, and that solo is a little bit sloppy when you listen to it, but Jimmy does sloppy pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's nowhere near as sloppy as like Neil Young, but and I'm fine with a sloppy Jimmy Page. Just not live, Gary. not when I see him live. I want the clean Jimmy Page. So then number 8, also from number 2. Jesus, I didn't realize I did 3 songs in a row here from the second album, and that is Thank You. And it's I think it's a song that would have fit in more on Led Zeppelin 3 as opposed to 2.
I can see that.
It's just a pretty song that Plant wrote for his wife, a thank you for loving him, and I like John Paul Jones keyboards in it.
Yeah.
Way it winds down. At number 7 from Led Zeppelin 4, Battle of Evermore.
Yeah.
Once again, John Paul Jones on the mandolin. I mean, that guy can play any instrument there is. I know he plays every string instrument, but then he also plays keyboards. Sandy Denny joins in on the vocals. At this point, Plant, he's fully immersed in his Lord of the Rings influence. He's singing about dragons and magic runes and dark lords. He's raising his goblet to J.R.R. Tolkien, for Christ's sake. So then number 6 from Houses of the Holy, the Rain Song. I think this is their prettiest ballad. I love John Paul Jones' mellotron in it, and I love when the song kind of picks up a little then, and Plant has that line, and to me, it's their most memorable line of any song. And it's when he sings, "I felt the coldness of my winter." So that is my top 6, my bottom 5, 6 or 10.
Excellent.
Yeah, those are all great. See, that's what's
Excellent.
funny. Is like none of those songs are, I don't think, are in my top 10.
Yeah.
But as you're talking about them, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That should be in the top 10.
I have one of them actually. One of
Okay.
Steve's is my number 9. But anyway, Gary, you're up next.
Okay. My number 10 pick is from Houses of the Holy, No Quarter. I love that organ beginning. It's so eerie sounding. And then John Bonham comes in with those nice crisp drums that he has. And eventually they get going there with Page and Jones doing a little kind of jazzy keyboard and guitar, mixing it up a little bit to where it almost doesn't sound like a rock song. For a while there, it almost sounds like more of a jazz song or something, but they do it in a cool way. And I love the sound of Plant's voice in there. I love it when he says, walking side by side with death, the devil mocks their every step. It's just got those cool lines in that song. And it has such a great eerie vibe to it.
Yeah.
I love that. And I even love it, like on Songs Remain the Same, where they expand it out and everything. It's still cool. Number 9, I know it was an honorable mention, but Good Times, Bad Times, kind of like you said. I feel like I had to put that on there because that was your introduction, to the world of Led Zeppelin. You got John Bonham going right away, and you're like, wow, holy shit, this is fantastic. It is just a fantastic song. I love it. Number 8, Immigrant Song. This is just a badass song. It comes off of an album that has a lot of acoustic stuff, but this is one of Led Zeppelin's heaviest songs. We come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. What a way, the lyrics in this song are great. Plus, you guys know I'm a Vikings fan, so he's Valhalla, I am coming, and that's just awesome. Matter of fact, I went up to see the Vikings play there a couple years ago, and outside the place, when you're doing all the tailgating, they had a band playing, and they played the Immigrant Song like 2 or 3 times, and everybody's into it. They played at the Viking Stadium, so I got that part of it. And plus, they use that line, "The hammer of the gods, will drive our ships." And you think of the book, "The Hammer of the Gods," and that whole term just goes with Led Zeppelin. Number 7, yes, I've heard this song a million times, but this is a song that, like I mentioned earlier, that got me to want to listen to Led Zeppelin, and that's Black Dog. Because I don't care how many times you've heard that damn song, it's fantastic. The timing of that song, I would love to have been in the studio to try to watch those guys put that together. And John Bonham, he had to think in his head, what kind of drum beat am I going to put into this song where it goes, da, 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 but he just plays straight through it. The way he does that, he accents parts of it. And the way that Bonham comes in on those little fills, when they go back into it, and then he goes into it, it's like, oh my God, that song is just so badass. And I feel like that song itself, along with, maybe a Whole Lot of Love, kind of inspired a whole generation of bands trying to emulate, but never duplicate that sound right there. So that's number 7. Number 6 is How Many More Times. Once again, ripping off a little bit of blues. You've got taken part of The Hunter by Muddy Waters. But the thing is, when Led Zeppelin, I know they get accused of stealing all this stuff from blues artists, but a lot of the times, the only thing that they're taking is like some of the lines, some of the verses from the songs. Now, in the one that you were talking about, Steve, the whole beginning of that song is an exact duplicate of the original blues song, but that's where it ends. The rest of it is all Led Zeppelin. And in this case, that's when they go, and it just gets all badass. And I love Led Zeppelin 1. I just think that's a fantastic album. And it's got that bass line, starts out the song. And then, like you said, Page comes in, duplicates it, the same thing. God, it's just fantastic song. That's my bottom 5.
All right.
Outstanding. Very good. My number 10 is one of their most famous songs, and it just exudes sex as far as I'm concerned, and that's Whole Lot of Love. I'm going to give you my love. Keep it coming. I mean, just the words, every inch of my love.
What?
How about, I'm going to be your backdoor man.
Yeah.
They just keep piling it on. And then, ooh, ah, ooh. I mean, it's just incredible. And it's one of the heavier songs, especially when it came out, man. Nobody sounded like that. So I'd had to make my top 10. I put it in the 10 hole. Number 9 is the one Steve had on his list. Thank You. What a beautiful song that is. A love song, a great guitar work, little acoustic number, and I like the John Paul Jones keyboards as well. Very heavenly sounding. Just it lifts you up. Real sensitive. If the sun refused to shine, if the sun refused to shine, I would still be loving you. Simple lyrics. Mountains crumble to the sea. There will still be you and me. I just like a timeless, beautifully written song. Number 8, I've got Misty Mountain Hop.
Yeah.
It's an unusual but a cool riff. Plan has that staccato kind of delivery in the lyrics too. I don't know how he does it, but it goes from that into I really don't know what time it was. Woo 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 woo. I mean, he just jams,
You
man.
sound just like him, Rich.
Thanks. Off key for those keeping. I don't have the plant voice, obviously. And then, he was walking in the park and ran into some flower children and just like the whole vibe. I love the song. It's in the movie Almost Famous too, which favorite movie of mine. Number 7 is Houses of the Holy, even though it's on Physical Graffiti. Another great riff. Love this song. From the Houses of the Holy, we can watch the white doves go. From the door comes Satan's daughter, and it only goes to show,
Yep.
it's a rocker, man. I love that song. Plant's voice has a lot to do with some of the songs I pick because he vacillates between the slow intro and then he gives it that punch when he needs to. I just love his voice. Of course, with Page's guitar work, what a combo. Number 6 is Over the Hills and Far Away. Love this one. Another one. It's about making mistakes in the relationship and finding the right girl. Many times I've loved, many times been bitten, many times I've gazed upon the open road. Do 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 do. That's a great song. Love it. So those are my 10 through 6. Now
Excellent.
we're going to go to our top 5 and we're going to go around and do them one at a time. Steve,
Yeah.
what is your number 5?
Yeah, that first run through there, it's a perfect example of what you were saying about it would be hard to find common ground because there's not one song that all 3 of us picked.
Well, we had Thank You. You and I had it.
Did you? Yeah, but I mean all 3 of us.
No, not all 3 of us. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
but
going to
I
be all
love-
over the
I
board.
love
We're gonna
that
be all
song.
over the board. And
Yeah.
that's cool because they have so many
Yeah.
great songs. You expect them.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Rich, of yours, I mean, I could have easily said Misty Mountain Hop and Over the Hills, Far Away. Gary, I could have, well, Immigrant Song made my honorable mention, as did Good Times, Bad Times. So
The body of work speaks for itself.
yeah, in 8 albums only too. That's the amazing thing.
It is incredible.
So, all right, my number 5 from Led Zeppelin 4. Not much to say about the song except it's probably their most straightforward rock and roll song, and that is Rock and Roll. I love the drum intro. The
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah, that's the best part of that song. I mean, I love the song, but
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean it to sound like that. But
right.
that opening is my favorite part of that
Oh
song.
yeah. That song starts. I mean, you know what it is instantly. There's no
One hit and you know what it is.
yeah. There's no confusion. So yeah, I mean, it's just a killer song that it has its home on a perfect album. I mean, that's a perfect album. I could have put all 8 songs from that album on this list.
Yeah.
All right. So that was my number 5.
All right.
All right. My number 5 comes off of side 4 of Physical Graffiti and the Wanton Song. if that's
Wow.
how you pronounce it. I just think that is such a rocking song. It's just, you talk about straightforward rocker, you know. just a combination of Page and Bonham on that song. I don't even know for sure what it's about. I think it's about a succubus. If you, well, the lyrics, it's kind of hard to understand what he's saying, but something about a woman, silent woman coming to me, like when I'm asleep, takes my seed. The lyrics
Sounds like a
don't even,
succubus.
yeah. So I'm kind of thinking it's something about that. And then at the end, maybe like now I've taken charge kind of thing. I don't know. I don't even give a shit. As far as the lyrics on that one, it just sounds awesome. It's another perfect example of John Bonham playing off of Jimmy Page. Those two together, I don't know. It's almost hard to say which one was more important in that band, Jimmy Page or John Bonham. I mean, I guess you'd have to say Jimmy Page because he's writing all those songs. But man, you just can't picture Led Zeppelin without John Bonham.
They need all four of them.
No.
That's what makes them great.
Yeah. They all brought something
They all
to that
contributed.
band, probably more so than, in my mind, maybe any other band.
Yeah.
Where you take, we could do a whole episode on John Paul Jones and talk about his importance in that
Right.
band.
Yeah,
Just as much as we could.
He's the unsung hero of that band.
Absolutely.
He's the last guy mentioned. You ask somebody to name the four members of Led Zeppelin, John Paul Jones is going to be last.
Right. And he's perfectly happy being in the shadows.
Yeah, he's John Deacon.
Yeah, exactly. He's just
Personality,
a musician. That guy's just a musician. And whatever needs to be done in the song to complete it, that's what he'll do.
Yeah.
Jimmy Page knew that. Jimmy Page sought him out, and he knew how great John Paul Jones was. He's always talked about how important he was in Led Zeppelin. And I think most people who are really into music understand that. But a majority of the people, like you said, Steve, he's the last guy they talk about, but he definitely fills out that song. And when you think of all the keyboards and things that are used in Led Zeppelin, and it's funny because like I can remember being at a party and they were playing Led Zeppelin 2 over the speakers, and this kid comes up to me and he doesn't even know Led Zeppelin, and he's a bass player, and he's like, man, he goes, the bass player in this band is amazing. He's like, who is this? I go, well, this is Led Zeppelin. And he's like, well, that's some of the best bass playing I've ever heard. So everybody in that band is a superstar.
Agreed. And that's why when Bonham died, they broke up because they couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Who, when Moon died, they replaced them. But Led Zeppelin, no, that was it. It was over.
I know. And that just goes to show you exactly how important he was. They're kind of like, yeah, we can't replace him. How many, most bands could just say, yeah, we'll get another drummer. Even the Who had Keith Moon, who's one of the most famous drummers. Right. But by the time Keith died, he was already a shell of himself anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to the album, Who Are You? There's spaces where he's not even playing. He couldn't keep time anymore. He rarely could, really, to begin with.
Yeah.
But you listen to what he's doing on that album, and it's like, yeah, he comes in with his fills sometimes, but even then, you listen to interviews with Pete Townsend, and he talks about how hard that was to get that out of Keith Moon by that time. I think that's why they carried on. By that time, Pete Townsend was kind of like, man, I would be okay. I think Keith Moon would have been replaced if he wouldn't have died.
I can't even imagine if Led Zeppelin had decided to carry on, the guy who would have had to fill those boots.
Oh, yeah.
He never would have been accepted by the fans.
No.
And I'd like to think that all four of those guys were irreplaceable. Let's just say, hypothetically, that John Paul Jones had died. Would they have carried on? Probably not. They probably wouldn't have replaced him either. They may have. But I think all four of them were such a tight unit. that
Yeah, well,
they lose one, it's over. Where AC/DC loses their lead singer and they carry on. I mean, it's a bizarre thing that happens.
and
You
you
know,
you think about like In Through the Outdoor, by that time, Jimmy Page had a pretty bad heroin problem.
yeah,
And John Paul Jones is carrying that band, him and Plant, as far as the songwriting goes. That's why you don't hear a whole lot of Jimmy Page on that album. And
It's probably
So-
why I don't have any songs from that album because there's very little Jimmy Page.
I think the timing has a lot to do with it too. The end of the 70s, Led Zeppelin in the 80s, I just can't even visualize it with everything the way it was changing. That's why Plant went on and did his thing, and then the Firm came up. I mean, just different stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just the time, and of course, the untimely death was the catalyst. So, history, you can't rewrite it, right?
right.
All right, I'm going to do my number 5. This is a song, an acoustic song. Hey, hey, what can I do?
Yeah.
Love this song. This is right up my alley. This should have been on Led Zeppelin 3. Showed up later on Coda, right?
I put it on a
great,
box set.
yeah, in the box set. Another great vocal by Robert Plant. I got a woman, she won't be true. I got a woman, stay drunk all the time.
Yeah.
I said I got a little woman and she won't be true. He's emphasizing that, I just love the nature of that song. And then they sing at the end. Hey, hey, what can I do? It's like a choral kind of thing. Beautiful song. I love it. That is my kind of Led Zeppelin. I know you guys like the hard hitting, and I do too. And I like the mixture of the two. But I like their acoustic stuff a lot too. They're excellent at it. They're really, really good at it.
Well, what's
All right.
kind of cool about that song is, like you touched on there, they actually have like a chorus.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of Led Zeppelin songs where they have like a chorus, and they do.
Yeah.
And that,
A sing-along chorus, yeah, you don't find that a lot.
No. But that's one of the things that I like. I like melody, I like choruses, I like catchy stuff, and that song sort of has it.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're down to 4. Steve, what do you have for number 4?
All right, this song, this was Gary's number 10 pick. It's a very unlike Zeppelin tune, and that is From Houses of Holy, no quarter. I think you said eerie. I have in my notes, it's a very haunting song. So, I mean, basically the same thing. The song, it's almost progressive. I could see a progressive rock band doing this song. We already talked about John Paul Jones. To me, he's the star on this song. It's he just lays down that haunting keyboard. And one thing I think about this song, I think it would have been better served. Led Zeppelin, their sequencing is normally really good, the way they plot out the songs on each album. But I think this song would have been better served had it not been sandwiched in between the ocean and Jamaica.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So that is number 4.
All right. Okay, my number 4, just to prove Rich wrong, saying that, we just like all the hard rocker ones.
I didn't mean it personally.
My number 4 is Tangerine.
There you go.
That's always been one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs. And of course, it was originally done. Page wrote it when he was in the Yardbirds. It was called Knowing That I'm Losing You. I can't remember if it might be off of Little Games, but so we already had that song done. They played that, and it's pretty much the same song, but obviously when Led Zeppelin does it, it's a million times better. It's a little more refined in that, a little more focused, and I love the lyrics in that song. It's a beautiful song, but it has this sadness that goes along with it. Thinking how it used to be, does she still remember times like these? And he goes, and I do. And then it goes into that cool echo fuzz guitar solo that he puts in the middle. That's all acoustic, but he's got this super cool little solo in there. Nothing hard. It's a very simple solo, but it's like perfect. It fits right in there, and it's a kind of romantic sounding song.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So that's my pick, Tangerine.
Good. I like that. I'm mixing it up. I like that stuff. My number 4 is What Is and What Should Never Be.
That's good.
I like the shift in tempo on this song where it starts out real gentle. He says, and if I say to you tomorrow, take my hand, child, come with me. To a castle I will take you, where what's to be, they say will be. And then it just revs up, the drums come in, catch a sky, see a spin, sail away, leave today, way up high in the sky. But the wind won't blow, really shouldn't go. Just jams. And I love that song. I like that split between the gentle beginning and then the rock and roll punch that it has. And
They
I
are
think that,
masters. They are masters at that shift.
and that
Yeah.
exemplifies Led Zeppelin to me really well. I love that song.
Yeah, that's perfect. And what both you guys are saying, because that's what separated Led Zeppelin from all the bands that tried to copy them. Is they
Right.
they didn't have that more mellow side to them. They just tried to take the, maybe part of Black Dog or Cashmere and things like that, but
Right.
they didn't have all that acoustic stuff that led into it. The whole light and dark thing, they didn't get that.
The thing
And
about
Led
that,
Zeppelin had that mysterious image about
yes,
them too.
yeah. And the thing is, you see, on a given album, it'll have a ballad here, a hard rocker here, whatever. They do it all within one song. They start out with a acoustic number and then they rock it up. So
Yeah.
it's all within the one tune, not just split among the albums. So it's a real key element to their sound, and it's why I love them so much.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
me, the only other band that when their first album came out, they got compared to Led Zeppelin, and I hear a little bit of it in it, but to me, nobody sounds like Led Zeppelin. And that is Queen. Queen does that shift within a song
Yeah,
very
I
well
can-
too.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they do it. Of course, they have a whole different way to do it. I
Right.
mean, they're more. I don't know
more
what the
opera-
word would be.
it's more operatic, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It is. All right. Number 3.
Number 3 for me, from Led Zeppelin 4. Did not make my list until yesterday around 3:00. I probably started working on a list like you guys started a couple weeks ago, and I had some, probably 3 or 4 that were definites. I mean, there were no way they were not going to make the list. And then I know I had quite a few that were not going to make it either. But when it came down to it, I played the album yesterday and I was like, I can't leave this song off, and that's Stairway to Heaven. And it's not even because it's overplayed. It's just that when I make these kind of lists, it's normally songs that I enjoy to listen to. It's not necessarily, I think these are the 10 best songs by this band, but it's what I really like to listen to. And I played the album yesterday, excuse me, with headphones on. And I recommend that. I wish I could listen to more albums with headphones on, because many times it's just like you're hearing the album for the first time. And I know listening to that on headphones yesterday is what, drove me to put this high for a song that wasn't even going to make the list. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I can say about Stairway to Heaven that hasn't been said. I mean, it just has everything, it's the guitar solo, I mean, and it's another song like we're talking about their shift, it starts out as you're listening to this ballad, and then they're playing it at high school proms. How do you start dancing to the fast part, It's not like Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues. That pretty much keeps the same pace throughout it all. But how do you dance to the end of last 3 minutes of Stairway to Heaven?
I know. I completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
I couldn't leave it off my list either. Let's just put it
Yeah.
that way.
So that's number
Me
3.
either.
Very good. Number 3, Gary.
Okay, well, my number 3 is Stairway to Heaven.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I've got to like what you said, Steve. I mean, I pick these normally by, my favorites to listen to at that time. Like you said, I don't necessarily say, okay, well, these are the best songs I ever wrote. But Stairway to Heaven, it's like, I don't give a shit that it's been played to death.
Right.
It's been played to death because it's one of the greatest songs of all time.
yeah.
And there's no denying it. I don't care who you are or what you say. You can say, oh, it's corny lyrics, blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, no, this is what you call a perfect freaking song. And at first I was thinking the same thing. I'm making out my list and I'm like, man, I want to put Stairway to Heaven on there. And I'm like, wait a minute, how do I not put
How do you
Stairway
not?
to Heaven on this list? I love the lyrics in the song. I don't know what all of them mean, but I think it's one of those songs that you take it to mean whatever you want it to mean. And you can pick out different lines in it that might mean something to you. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west and my spirit is crying for leaving. Right? I don't know. We're all Midwest guys here. We might look to the west and think of sunny California and think of just, well, what would life be like out there? Or you could look even beyond that. You could look in a kind of a mystical way, whatever you want to do. And I also think that this song has evolved to me as it's kind of symbolic of my youth in a way, because, we all remember when we were really young and we were getting into this song and we're like, yeah, man, we thought we knew everything about it and it really meant something. And then you get to a point where you're like, yeah, I'm tired of hearing this song. And then you come back and you fall in love with it. And now, when I hear it, I think of my best friend and I in high school listening to this song and just thinking, oh my God, this song is so good. And it just represents different things to you. I know a few years back, I saw a show that had Cheap Trick, Joan Jett, and Heart. Heart was the headliner. So, I love all three of those bands. It was this long show, obviously, and Heart finished doing Stairway to Heaven. That's how they ended it. So, I mean, first of all, I was in heaven hearing all this great music and stuff. And then they ended with that song. And it was just like, I was drained afterwards. I was just picturing so many things in my mind. They did such an amazing job. I was sitting there, I had tears in my eyes. My wife is, are you crying? And I go, no.
I'm doing the more manly option. I'm tearing up.
Yes, exactly.
I completely understand it.
That song does that to me.
Yeah, I mean,
at this time of my life. So
I've seen Heart a number of times, and they do great Zeppelin covers. Yeah, I mean, I've seen them do Battle of Evermore. I've seen them do Black Dog, and they pull it off better than anybody.
Heart's
and
a great
when they
band.
started playing it, I assumed they were just going to do part of it,
Yeah.
and then maybe go into something else. But they did the entire song, man. And it just kept building, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just so great to hear live like this. When I saw, unfortunately, I'm not as cool as Steve. I never got to actually see Led Zeppelin.
You're just not as old.
Yeah, they were already dead and gone.
Yeah.
But when I saw Jimmy Page do his solo tour, they played Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, just an instrumental thing. And he comes up and he's like, you might want to sing along with this song or whatever. And the crowd did, people sang along with it. And it was still very cool just to hear that, oh my God, there's Jimmy Page playing Stairway to Heaven and we're singing it. So,
Who has a better Led Zeppelin experience than me is Glenn Calloway.
Yeah.
He saw them in Toronto in 1969 in a venue that held like 900 people.
I heard him talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'd take out a loan to go back in time and hear him right at that point.
Yeah.
Geez, God, that would be fantastic. Man.
Unbelievable. All right. My number 3 is Dazed and Confused. I love the arrangement on this song with the bluesy beginning and the vocal, and then it really revs up towards the end. Try to love you, baby, but you push me away. Don't know where you're going, only know where you've been. Sweet little baby, I want you again. And it just it's just one of them songs again that Led Zeppelin does it, man. They can lure you in and then hammer you with some.
Yeah.
That's what they do, and the formula works for me. And it's a thread that runs through a lot of the songs I pick because I like the dichotomy of the ballad or the blues and then the hard rock, and it works for me. That's all I can say. And
Me too.
all of us really.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Very good.
Number 2.
All right. My 4th song from Led Zeppelin 4. When the Levee Breaks.
There you go.
Like I talked about with No Quarter, the sequencing, it's a perfect album closer. I can't picture another song from that album ending it. I mean, maybe because that's the only way I've heard it for 50 years, but I just can't envision another song. But the story's been told 100 times. How they recorded Bonham, that they put him in the foyer, to get this big sound. Because I don't think there's a better recording of a drum performance.
Yeah.
You guys ever hear the original? Because once again, as we go into the copyright territory here,
I don't think I have. No.
it was done like in 1927. I just listened to it yesterday. I wanted to find it because I had never heard it, and they did change the lyrics some, and but it's an interesting listen. You can find it on YouTube easy.
I'll
Just
check
type
it
in
out.
"When the Levee Breaks" original and it'll come up. And the bonus points for this song is he's going north to Chicago.
Yeah. Going to Chicago.
Yep. So that is number 2.
Very good.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that song. That's another song, man. All you guys are saying stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that could have been in my top 10.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've always loved that. And what's funny is that drum beat is, because I play drums a little bit, and it's like it doesn't sound like it's complicated, but he's got that one little move with his foot there. He's the master of the bass drum,
Yeah.
and every time I play it, I lose the rhythm of it. I always screw it up. It just sounds so amazing. Okay, my number 2 is another borrowing of an old blues song, or at least some of the lines of it. And that would be "In My Time of Dying." God, what an epic song that thing is.
Epic.
That's one of the couple songs that Jimmy Page plays that Dan Electro white and black guitar that he has, that little thin thing. Like he does that with Cashmere, and that what was that instrumental White Summer thing that he did. But he plays all that slide on there, and once again we're talking about the whole starts out very slow, and meet me Jesus, meet me Lord.
Yeah.
They take a part of it is from Blind Willie Johnson. He had a song, "In My Time of Dying." Of course, if you've ever heard it, they also do "Nobody's Fault But Mine," which is from him. And if you've ever heard those original songs, it's very different. First of all, Blind Willie Johnson sounds like, that's how his voice is. Very, very rough. And so they basically just take some of the lines. It sounds nothing at all like the song. And it kind of makes me think, a lot of people really criticize Led Zeppelin because they, ripping off these blues artists, but I don't know that. I think their mindset was more like, we love all these old songs, and we're kind of, I don't know if they really felt like they were stealing them so much as it's a homage to them in a way.
That's the way I look at it. Yep.
Because honestly, if it wasn't for Led Zeppelin, I never would have went and bought Robert Johnson or Howlin' Wolf, some of these other bands, because I would have been like, who cares? But because of them, I'm like, I'm going to go back and listen to some of this stuff. So, the estates of these artists still made money from Led Zeppelin because of people like me going out and buying that music. But that song, In My Time of Dying, it just keeps building to where by the time they're at the end of that song, it's just crazy. And it's just so, hectic. And it's like, oh my God, how far can they push this song? And then it finally, comes back and ends really slow. And then they, you hear them go, cough. They just leave the part of him dicking around in the studio. And I just love that song, man. That's just a rocker that you just got to stay with from the front to the end. And it's just, by the time it's done, it's great.
Awesome. Love it. And I don't buy into that ripping off stuff either. I think it's an homage or a tribute to those who came before, and they're just borrowing, and I don't think it's a big deal. It's not a flat out rip off. I don't see it that way.
I mean, like we say, there's a couple points where, they should have included credits, in the original recordings.
If they had done that at first, you probably never would have heard anything.
That's the point. That's an excellent point, really.
But I don't think that at the time, I don't know that was the mindset. I mean, all those, you had the Stones. Yeah, they gave credit to those bands, but when they did it, they just did straight covers.
That's the difference, yeah.
Of those old, Led Zeppelin took them and made them their own songs.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I love that quote of John Lennon's, when you steal from one person, it's plagiarism, but when you steal from a bunch, it's research.
Yeah. Like it.
Yeah. Because he said that after, he got sued for Come Together because of the lyrics in that, because he was borrowed some of Chuck Berry's lyrics there. And
I think everybody steals from everybody else. I mean, even Bob Dylan, the greatest songwriter of all time, he takes things from the past and does things with them too. I mean, I think everybody does to a degree.
But yet now we have a whole genre of music, rap music, that does nothing but.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet you'll see a magazine like Rolling Stone that would bash on Led Zeppelin for this and tell you that these rap artists are geniuses. So I could go off on that.
I know.
That's a lot of politics there.
It is.
I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm going to.
Especially when you're talking about Rolling Stone magazine, you're talking politics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they have an agenda for sure.
Yeah.
All right, my number 2 is another one of these songs that sort of starts out a certain way and then hammers it home, and that's Ramble On. Great solo by Jimmy Page in here. I like the beginning because they're setting the atmosphere and the location. Leaves are falling all around. Autumn moon lights my way. I smell the rain with it pain. And then it just and then now's the time to sing my song. Going around the world. I've got to find my girl. Just insane, but catchy as hell. And again, when I pick my list, I'm picking favorites, but I'm picking the songs that I think epitomize the Led Zeppelin sound. That's just the way I structure it. There are certain songs I can't leave out, and because I would feel just like I'm not giving them the proper respect they deserve. That's just my own way of doing it. I don't want to be selfish and put deep cuts all the way through and leave some of the bigger monster hits off, because I don't think it would be the right thing to do. But
I respect your process.
we all
Yes.
have our own process, and that's just mine, and that works through all the lists I do. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and I try to include a couple deep cuts, but mostly these are iconic, famous songs that sum up the band we're talking about. So, all right, now we're down to the big one, number one. It'll be interesting to see what we have in store here.
Mine comes from Led Zeppelin 1.
Ooh,
And that is Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You.
How about that?
love it.
And it's another one of those foggy Led Zeppelin writing credits, you know. But up until that point, you know, the most famous recording had been Joan Baez had done it. But that song was written by this woman, Anne Bredon. You ever hear the story about her?
No.
She was in college at Berkeley and much smarter than me. She got her master's in mathematics. But she wrote Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You while she was in college. And she had no idea about, you know, copywriting a song that you could make money from it. And so, you know, Joan Baez had used it for years. And then her son in the 80s told her, he said, you know, you should really see a lawyer about getting your copyright royalties for this song, because Led Zeppelin has sold a ton of albums with this song on it. And she did. So now any of the prints, it always shows Anne Bredon, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, that song, I just love that song. I mean, it's another one we've said it a dozen times already today, how they shift. You know, it's just got that acoustic guitar, and then it's
Exactly.
and although that was sounded too much like 25 or 6/4 there when I did that.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, I don't know, maybe Chicago ripped off Led Zeppelin. But yeah, it's just a great song. It is the one song, when I play that album, it is the one song that I want to hear. You know, it's the highlight of me listening to that album. I don't know, is it my all-time favorite Led Zeppelin song? Today it is.
Today it is.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that's number one.
Good number one.
You know, it's funny, that song, I was thinking of that song like kind of like right before we got on the air, because I'm like, that song is not even in my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about it, songs going through my head, I'm like, hell, that could be my number one. I love that song. And when that comes on, when that comes on, Led Zeppelin 1, you know what I love about Led Zeppelin's first album is just the sound of it too. I know they hurried up, they recorded it really fast and everything, but it has
but it's a well-produced album.
It is.
Yeah. It sounds so much better than other music that was recorded during that time.
Yeah.
And it still has that kind of a 60s feel to it in a way, but it's like it's a 60s feel, but at the same time destroying it. You know, it's like, okay, here we are. Yeah, we got Robert Plant, kind of the hippie kind of guy in a way, but we're going somewhere else, man. We're going somewhere heavier and darker, kind of like, like Black Sabbath would do a year later or whatever.
Well, if there's ever an album that ushered in a new sound, that was it, man. That was it.
Yeah, because they were Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. I mean, once that popped up, they were outselling the Beatles, by that time. I mean, I would, I wasn't into it at the time, but I would think if I was like, whatever, 14 at that time or something, and all of a sudden, I'd been listening to the Beatles, and all of a sudden here comes Led Zeppelin, I'd be like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Step on in, Led Zeppelin.
Well, I looked today, and I think they're the either fifth or sixth best-selling artists of all time as far as album sales. So higher than the Rolling Stones, which surprised me a lot. You got the Beatles, Elvis, of course, Michael Jackson, and Elton John, and then comes a virtual tie, Madonna and Led Zeppelin. Those are your top 5 or 6 as far as complete album sales.
Wow.
So they're heavy
Right.
hitters.
Yeah, and you think Led Zeppelin, they were not a singles band.
They would
No, not at all. No,
not
no,
at all.
Page,
So everything's
Page didn't even
albums.
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Page said no singles.
and only
what-
8 albums, and still they produced enough to get in the top 6, let's say.
Yeah, they didn't need singles because of FM radio. I mean,
Right.
FM radio played their stuff like crazy. I mean, you weren't going to hear them on, the AM radio that we grew up with in the 60s, but
No.
And
they
they
came
were a
along
band.
Came along at the right time.
Yeah, they were a band, like you said, that kind of like Pink Floyd. You're gonna have those headphones on, man. Listen,
Yeah.
and you're listening to the whole album. You're not just listening to a couple songs, man. You're listening to the whole album.
Yep.
Yeah, by the time they came along in 69, a lot of that AM radio stuff was in the rearview mirror. It was time to move over to the FM dial, and that's where they led the way, It's great
Yeah.
stuff.
All
All
right.
right, Gary, number 1.
My number 1, going back to Physical Graffiti and The Rover. I love the sound of the guitar in that song. I like the fact that it's kind of got a message. If we could just join hands, if we could just join hands. And it's, it's got a little bit of a hippie thing going on there, but the guitar is super heavy. He's got some kind of phasing thing on there. I don't know what it is, but just the way it starts out with the guitar and that riff, and it just keeps it going throughout it, and it ends differently. I can't imitate that, but it's just a great way to end that song too. It gets even more crazy as it goes along, and it's just Robert Plant. Everybody just sounds great on that song, and it's just one of those riffs. It's kind of like I feel the same way about that I do Supernaut by Black Sabbath. It's like I can't get enough of that riff. When I hear it, it's just every time it's so infectious.
If we did a Black Sabbath list, that would probably be my number 1 song.
Well, yeah, it could possibly be mine too.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my number 1 song. In that one, it's just a great combination of everything. But kind of like what we're saying today. It's my number 1 song today.
Right.
Next week, maybe not. I will tell you this. It's always going to be in my top 5, but maybe not always my number 1. But today it is.
Well, my number 1 song, you guys mentioned it. It is "Stairway to Heaven." I just couldn't get away from it. It's just too big, too awesome, too wonderful. Every time they do a poll of greatest rock songs, it's right there, and it can't be denied. I like the combination again of the acoustic and the electric. I've said that all throughout this. It's got that hard rock passage in the middle. Then it goes into the instrumentation part of the song, and it ends with that a cappella line at the end with Plant's vocal saying, "And she's buying a stairway to heaven," and it sort of lifts off at the end. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Just constructed. The arrangement. It's a perfect song on a perfect album. Every song on that album's great.
Yeah.
And this is the high watermark for me of Led Zeppelin's career, and I couldn't get away from it. I could never leave it off the list, and I didn't think it was fair to leave it, out of the number 1 spot. So that's why it's there.
Well,
I know it's cliche, but you got to do what you got to do.
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
It's the only song that all 3 of us picked.
Yeah. So that says it all right there, right?
Yeah.
Well, I almost feel like if we would have all of us left that off of our top 10 list, that would almost be very pretentious of us. It's kind of like we're saying, well, we're not going to pick that because that's what everybody
Because it's
likes,
expected, right? Yeah.
but
And we've heard it a million times. you know, that overplayed stuff. To me, it's overplayed for a reason. I mean, you know, that's a quote, but everybody wants to hear the song. It's an iconic song.
And, you know, you do it kind of like Steve, you said this before when you were talking about Led Zeppelin 4. Okay, that song Stairway to Heaven might come on the radio. I might turn it off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to change it so I can hear it myself, you know, when I want to hear it. Not just when, you know, the radio's telling me I want to hear it. Maybe I don't want to hear it right now. I don't want to hear it on my car radio. I want to hear it at home on my stereo.
With the
whatever.
headphones. Yeah.
You know, I got songs like that I have to do that with, that I totally love, but they're overplayed songs. So they come on the radio sometimes. You know, I do that with Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd a lot of times, because I think that's such an amazing song that it'll come on the radio and I might say, you know what, no, I'm not listening to it right now. So
yeah, that happens. But I think what Steve said is true. That's the only song that all three of us had. So that tells you a lot right there, that is the essential Led Zeppelin song that none of us felt like we could leave off and be true to ourselves. So
Now I'm glad I gave it another listen yesterday, because I'd be the pretentious prick sitting here.
that's funny. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Glad to do this with you guys again. Steve, All the World's a Stage. Please sub him up. Gary, Physical Format Rock and Roll. Sub him up, and we'll discuss what we're going to do again. But
and sub Rich
please,
Strickler too.
please
right.
hit the like button, subscribe if you like, leave comments, give us your own top 10. We'd love to hear some alternative picks or whatever you have to say. Back us up if you like some of the songs we picked. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.